Heat Wave by Richard Castle. Narrated by Johnny Heller. Copyright 2009 by ABC Studios. This unabridged audiobook is published by arrangement with Hyperion and was produced in the year 2009 by Tantor Media Incorporated, which holds the copyright thereto. Chapter 1. It was always the same for her when she arrived to meet the body. After she unbuckled her seatbelt, after she pulled a stick pen from the rubber band on the sun visor, after her long fingers brushed her hip to feel the comfort of her service piece, what she always did was pause. Not long, just the length of a slow, deep breath. That's all it took for her to remember the one thing she will never forget. Another body waited. She drew the breath, and when she could feel the raw edges of the hole that had been blown in her life, Detective Nicky Heat was ready. She opened the car door and went to work. The wallop of 100 degrees almost shoved her back in the car. New York was a furnace, and the soft pavement on West 77th gave under her feet like she was walking on wet sand. Heat could have made it easier on herself by parking closer, but this was another of her rituals, the walk-up. Every crime scene was a flavor of chaos, and these 200 feet afforded the detective her only chance to fill the clean slate with her own impressions. Thanks to the afternoon swelter, the sidewalk was nearly empty. The neighborhood lunch rush was over, and tourists were either across the street, cooling in the American Museum of Natural History, or seeking refuge in Starbucks over iced drinks ending in vowels. Her disdain for the coffee drinkers dissolved into a mental note to get one herself on the way back to the precinct. Ahead, she clocked a doorman at the apartment building, just her side of the barrier tape that encircled the sidewalk cafe. His hat was off, and he was sitting on the worn marble steps with his head between his knees. She looked up at the hunter green canopy as she passed him and read the building name, the Guilford. Did she know the uniform flashing her the smile? She rapid-fired a slideshow of faces, but stopped when she realized he was just checking her out. Detective Heat smiled back and parted her linen blazer to give him something else to fantasize about. His face rearranged itself when he saw the shield on her waistband. The young cop lifted the yellow tape for her to duck under, and when she came up she caught him giving her a sex ray again, so she couldn't resist. "Make you a deal," she said. "I'll watch my ass, you watch the crowd." Detective Nicky Heat entered her crime scene past the vacant hostess podium of the sidewalk cafe. All the tables at La Belle were empty, except one where Detective Rayleigh of her squad sat with a distraught family with sunburned faces struggling to translate German into a statement. Their uneaten lunch swarmed with flies. Sparrows, avid outdoor diners themselves, perched on seatbacks and made bold dives for pommes frites. At the service door, Detective Ochoa looked up from his notebook and quick-nodded her while he questioned a busboy in a white apron flecked with blood. The rest of the serving staff was inside at the bar, having a drink after what they had witnessed. He looked over to where the medical examiner knelt and couldn't blame them one bit. "Male unknown, no wallet, no identification, preliminary age range 60 to 65. Severe blunt force trauma to head, neck, and chest." Lauren Perry's gloved hand peeled back the sheet for her friend Nicky to have a look at the corpse on the sidewalk. The detective glanced and quickly looked away. "No face, so we'll comb the area for any dental. Otherwise, not much to ID from after that impact. Is this where he landed?" "There." The M.E. indicated the cafe busing station a few feet away. It had caved in from the top so hard it was split in half. The violent splash of ice and blood had already baked into the sidewalk in the minutes since the fall. As Heat stepped over there, she noted that the cafe umbrellas and the stone walls of the building also wore dried blood, ice spatter, and bits of tissue. She got as close to the wreckage as she dared without contaminating the scene and looked straight up. "It's raining men." Nicky Heat didn't even turn. She just sighed his name. Rook. "Hallelujah." He held on to his smile until she finally looked at him, shaking her head. "What? It's okay. I don't think he can hear me." She wondered what sort of karma payback it was for her to be saddled with this guy. It wasn't the first time that month she had wondered it either. The job was hard enough if you were doing it right. Add a reporter with a mouth playing make-believe cop and your day just got a little longer. She backed up to the long flower boxes that defined the perimeter of the outdoor cafe and looked up again. Rook moved with her. "I would have been here sooner, except somebody didn't call me. If I hadn't phoned to Choa, I would have missed this." "It's just tragedy upon tragedy, isn't it?" "You wound me with your sarcasm. Look, I can't research my article on New York's finest without access, and my deal with the commissioner specifically states—" "Trust me, I know your deal. I've been living day and night. You get to observe on all my homicides just like real-life detectives who work for a living. So you forgot. I accept your apology." "I didn't forget, and I didn't hear any apology. At least not from me." "I kind of inferred it. You radiate subtext. Someday you're going to tell me what favor you did for the mayor to get this ride-along pushed through." "Sorry, Detective Heat, I'm a reporter, and that's strictly off the record." "Did you kill a story that made him look bad?" "Yes, God, you make me feel cheap, but you'll get nothing more." Detective Ochoa wrapped his busboy interview, and Heat beckoned him over. "I passed a doorman for this building who looked like he was having a very bad day. Go check him out, see if he knows our dough." When she turned back, Rook had curled his hands to form skin binoculars and was sighting up the building overlooking the cafe. "I'd call the balcony on 6. When you write your magazine article, you can make it any floor you like, Mr. Rook. Isn't that what you reporters do? Speculate?" Before he could reply, she held her forefinger to his lips. "But we're not celebrity journalists here. We're just the police, and darn it, we have these pesky things called facts to dig up, and events to verify. And while I try to do my job, would it be too much to ask that you maintain a little decorum?" "Sure, no problem." "Thank you. Jameson? Jameson, Rook!" Rook and he turned to see a young woman behind the police line waving and jumping up and down for his attention. "Oh, my God, it's him! It's Jameson Rook!" Rook gave her a smile and a wave, which only made his fan more excited. Then she ducked under the yellow tape. "Hey, no, get back!" Detective Heat signaled to a pair of uniforms, but the woman in the halter and cutoffs was already inside the line and approaching Rook. "This is a crime scene. You have to go. Can I at least get an autograph?" Heat weighed expediency. The last time she tried to chase off one of his fans, it had involved 10 minutes of arguing and an hour writing up an answer to the woman's official complaint. Literate fans are the worst. She nodded to the uniforms, and they waited. "I saw you on The View yesterday morning. Oh, my God, you're even cuter in person." She clawed through her straw bag, but kept her eyes on him. "After the show, I ran out and bought the magazine so I could read your story, see?" She pulled out the latest issue of First Press. The cover shot was Rook and Bono at a relief center in Africa. "Oh, I have a Sharpie." "Perfect." He took the marker and reached for her magazine. "No, sign this." She took a step closer and tugged aside the cup of her halter. Rook smiled. "I think I'm going to need more ink." The woman exploded with laughter and clutched Nicky Heat's arm. "See? This is why he's my favorite writer." But Heat was focused on the front steps of the Guilford, where Detective Ochoa clapped a sympathetic hand on the shoulder of the doorman. He left the shade of the canopy, did a limbo under the tape, and crossed to her. "Doorman says our Vic lived in this building, 6th floor. Nicky heard Rook clear his throat behind her, but didn't turn. He was either gloating or signing a groupie's breast. She wasn't in the mood to see either one. An hour later, in the solemn hush of the victim's apartment, Detective Heat, the embodiment of sympathetic patience, sat in an antique tapestry chair across from his wife and their 7-year-old son. A blue reporter's cut spiral notebook rested closed on her lap. Her naturally erect dancer's posture and the drape of her hand on the carved wooden armrest gave her a look of regal ease. When she caught Rook staring at her from across the room, he turned away and studied the Jackson Pollock on the wall in front of him. She reflected on how much the paint splatters echoed the busboy's apron downstairs, and though she tried to stop it, her cop's brain began streaming its capture video of the mangled busing station, the slack faces of traumatized waitstaff, and the coroner's van departing with the body of real estate mogul Matthew Starr. He'd wondered if Starr was a jumper. The economy, or more accurately, the lack of it, had triggered scores of collateral tragedies. On any given day, the country seemed one turn of a hotel maid's key away from discovering the next suicide, or murder-suicide, of a CEO or tycoon. Was ego an antidote? As New York real estate developers went, Matthew Starr didn't write the book on ego, but he sure did the term paper. A perennial also ran in the race to slap his name on the outside of everything with a roof. You had a credit Starr with at least staying in the chase. And by the looks of his digs, he had been weathering the storm lavishly on 2 luxury floors of a landmark building just off Central Park West. Every furnishing was either antique or designer. The living room was a grand salon 2 stories high, and its walls were covered up to the cathedral ceiling by collectible art. Safe bet nobody left takeout menus or locksmith brochures at this front door. A trace of muffled laughter turned Nicky Heat's attention to the balcony, where Detectives Rayleigh and Ochoa, a duo affectionately condensed to Roach, were working. Kimberly Starr rocked her son in a long hug and didn't seem to hear it. He'd excused herself and crossed the room, gliding in and out of ponds of light beaming down from the upper windows, casting an aura on her. She sidestepped the forensics tech dusting the French doors and went out onto the balcony, flipping her notebook to a blank page. "Pretend we're going over notes." Rayleigh and Ochoa exchanged confused looks, then drew closer to her. "I could hear you 2 laughing in there." "Oh, geez," said Ochoa. He winced, and the sweat bead clinging to the tip of his nose fell onto her page. "Listen to me. I know to you this is just another crime scene, right? But for that family in there, it's the only one they've ever experienced. Are you hearing me? Good." She half turned to the door and turned back. "Oh, and when we get out of here, I want to hear that joke. I could use it." When Heat came back in, the nanny was ushering Kimberly's son out of the room. "Take Maddie outside for a while, Agda, but not out front. Do you hear me? Not out front." She pulled another tissue and dabbed her nose. Agda stopped in the archway. "It is so hot in the park today for him." The Scandinavian nanny was a looker and could have been Kimberly's co-ed sister, a comparison that made Heat ponder the age disparity between Kimberly Starr, who she ballparked at 28, and her dead husband, a man in his mid-60s. Can you say trophy wife, boys and girls? Maddie's solution was the movies. The new Pixar film was out, and even though he'd seen it on its first day, he wanted to go again. Nicky made a note to take her niece to it on the weekend. That little girl loved animated movies, almost as much as Nicky. Nothing like a niece to provide the perfect excuse to spend 2 hours enjoying pure innocence. Maddie Starr left with an unsure wave, sensing something amiss, but so far spared the news that would descend upon the little boy soon enough. "Once again, Mrs. Starr, I am sorry for your loss." "Thank you, Detective." Her voice came from a fireplace. She sat primly, smoothing the pleats of her sundress, and then waited, immobile, except for the tissue she absently twisted on her lap. "I know this isn't the best time, but there are some questions I'm going to need to ask." "I understand." Again the waif voice, measured, remote, and what else? He'd wondered. "Yes, proper." He'd uncapped her pen. "Were you or your son here when it happened?" "No, thank God we were out." The detective made a short note and folded her hands. Kimberly waited, rolling a chunk of black onyx from her David Yurman necklace, then filled the silence. "We went to Dino Bites over in Amsterdam. We had frozen tar pit soup. It's just melted chocolate ice cream with gummy sores. Maddie loves the tar pit soup." Rook sat down in the toile Chippendale wing chair opposite Heat. "Do you know if anyone else was home?" "No, I don't think so." She seemed to see him for the first time. "Have we met? You look familiar." He jumped in to close that flank, and fast. "Mr. Rook is a journalist, a magazine writer working with us in an unofficial capacity, very unofficial." "A reporter. You're not going to do a story about my husband, are you?" "No, not specifically. I'm just doing background research on this squad." "Good, because my husband wouldn't like that. He thought all reporters were assholes." Nicky Heat said she understood completely, but she was looking at Rook when she said it. And then she continued, "Did you notice any changes in your husband's mood or behavior recently?" "Matt did not kill himself. Don't even go there." Her demure, preppy composure vaporized in a flare of anger. "Mrs. Starr, we just want to cover all—" "Don't! My husband loved me and our son. He loved life. He was building a mixed-use low-rise with green technology, for God's sake." Beads of perspiration sprouted under her side-swept bangs. "Why are you asking stupid questions when you could be looking for his killer?" Detective Heat let her vent. She had been through enough of these to know that the composed ones had the most rage to siphon off. Or was she just recalling herself back when she was the one in the lost chair, 19 years old, with her world suddenly imploding around her? Had she really siphoned off all her rage, or merely clamped a lid on it? It's summer, damn it! We should be in the Hamptons. This wouldn't have happened if we were at Stormfall. No, that's money. You don't just buy an estate in East Hampton, you name it. Stormfall was beachfront, secluded, and Seinfeld adjacent, with a partial Spielberg view. "I hate this city," Kimberly shouted. "Hate it, hate it. What is this, like murder number 300 so far this year?" "As if they even matter to you people after a while," she panted, apparently finished. He closed her notebook and circled around the coffee table to sit beside her on the sofa. "Please hear me. I know how difficult this is." "No, you don't." "I'm afraid I do." She waited for the meaning of that to sink in on Kimberly, then continued. "Murders are not numbers to me. A person died, a loved one. Someone you thought you were eating dinner with tonight is gone. A little boy has lost his father. Someone is responsible, and you have my promise. I will see your case through." Mollified, or maybe just shock-worn, Kimberly nodded and asked if they could finish this later. "Right now, I just want to go to my boy." She left them in the apartment to continue their investigation. After she left, Rook said, "I always wondered where all those Martha Stewarts came from. They must breed them on a secret farm in Connecticut. Thank you for not interrupting while she was spewing." Rook shrugged. "I'd like to say that was sensitivity, but it was really because of the chair. It's hard for a man to sound authoritative surrounded by twal. Okay, now that she's gone, can I tell you I get a vibe off her I don't like?" "Uh-huh, I'm not surprised. That was a hell of a shot you took at your profession, accurate though it was." He turned in case her inner smile leaked onto her face and started back to the balcony. He fell in with her. "Oh, please, I have 2 Pulitzers. I don't need her respect." She gave him a side glance. "Although I did kind of want to tell her that the series of articles I wrote about my month underground with the Chechen rebels were being optioned for a movie." "Why didn't you?" Your self-aggrandizement might have been a welcome distraction from the fact that her husband just died a violent death. They stepped out into the afternoon scorch, where Rayleigh and Ochoa's shirts had soaked clean through. "What have you got, Roach?" "Definitely not liking suicide," said Rayleigh. "A, check out the fresh paint chips and stone dust. Somebody banged open those French doors pretty hard, like during a struggle. And B," Ochoa picked up, "you've got your trail of scuff marks leading from the doors across... what is this?" "Terracotta tile," said Rook. "Right, shows the marks pretty good, huh? And they go all the way to here." He stopped at the balustrade. "This is where our man went over." All 4 of them leaned to look below. "Wow," said Rook. 6 floors down. It is 6, isn't it, fellas?" "Let it go, Rook," said Heat. "But here's our telltale." Ochoa got on his knees to indicate something on the railing with his pen. "You'll have to get close." He backed up to make room for Heat, who knelt to see where he was pointing. "It's torn fabric. Forensics geek says it'll test out as blue denim after he runs it. Our Vic wasn't wearing jeans, so this came from someone else." Rook knelt down beside her to look. "As in someone who shoved him over." Heat nodded, as did Rook. They turned to face each other, and she was a little startled by his proximity, but didn't pull back. Nose to nose with him in the heat, she held his gaze and watched the dance of reflected sunlight playing off his eyes. And then she blinked. "Oh, shit," she thought. "What was that? I can't be attracted to this guy." "No way." Detective Heat quickly rose to her feet, crisp and all business. "Roach, I want you to run a background on Kimberly Starr and check out her alibi and that ice cream place in Amsterdam." "So," said Rook, rising beside her, "you got a vibe off her too, huh?" "I don't do vibes, I do police work." Then she hurried away to the apartment. Later, on the elevator ride down, she asked her detectives, "Okay, what was so funny that I could have killed you both with my bare hands, and so you know I am trained to do that?" "Ah, nothing, just letting the giddy out, you know how it gets," said Ochoa. "Yeah, nothing at all," said Rayleigh. 2 floors of silence passed, and they both started a low hum of "It's Raining Men" before they cracked up. "That's what you were laughing at?" "This," said Rook, "may be the proudest moment of my life." As they stepped back out into the blast furnace and gathered under the Guilford canopy, Rook said, "You'll never guess who wrote that song." "I don't know from songwriters, man," from Rayleigh. "You'd know this one." "Elton John?" "Wrong." "Clue?" A woman's scream cut through the rush-hour noise of the city, and Nicky Heat bounded onto the sidewalk, her head swiveling to search up and down the block. "Over there," called the doorman, pointing toward Columbus. "Mrs. Starr." Heat followed his gaze to the corner, where a large man gripped Kimberly Starr by the shoulders and jammed her against a store window. It thundered on impact but did not break. Nicky was off in a sprint, with the other three close behind. She waved her shield and hollered at pedestrians to move as she wove through the after-work crowd. Rayleigh fisted his two-way and called for backup. "Police, freeze!" called Heat. In the assailant's split second of alarm, Kimberly went for a groin kick that missed wildly. The man was already on the move, and she torqued herself down to the pavement. "Ochoa," said Heat, pointing at Kimberly as she passed. Ochoa stopped to attend her while Rayleigh and Rook followed Heat, dodging cars into the crosswalk on 77th. A tour bus making an illegal turn blocked their path. Heat ran around the bus's rear end, through a puff of hot diesel exhaust, emerging on the cobblestone sidewalk that surrounded the museum complex. There was no sign of him. She slowed to a jog and then a race walk across from the Evelyn at 78th. Rayleigh was still on his walkie behind her, calling in their location and the man's description. "Male, caulk, 35, Bolden, 6 feet, white, short-sleeve shirt, blue jeans." At 81st and Columbus, Heat stopped and turned a circle. A sheen of perspiration glistened on her chest and fed a darkened V pattern down the front of her top. The detective showed no sign of fatigue, only alertness, seeing near and far at the same time, knowing all she needed was a glimpse of any piece of him to put her back on the run. "He wasn't in that good a shape," Rook sounded, a little winded. "He couldn't have gotten far." She turned to him, a little impressed he had kept up, and a little annoyed that he had. "What the hell are you doing here, Rook?" "Extra set of eyes, Detective." "Rayleigh, I'll cover Central Park West and circle the museum. You take 81st to Amsterdam and loop back on 79th. "Got it." He cut across the grain of the downtown flow in Columbus. "What about me?" "Have you noticed I might be too busy to babysit you right now? If you want to be helpful, take that extra set of eyes and see how Kimberly Starr is doing." She left him there in the corner without looking back. Heat needed her concentration and didn't want her focus pulled. Not by him. This ride-along was getting tired enough. And what was with that business back there on the balcony, pulling up next to her face like some perfume ad in Vanity Fair, those ads that promise the kind of love that life just never seems to deliver? Lucky she shook herself out of that little tableau. Still, she wondered, maybe she had just bitch-slapped the guy a little too hard. When she turned to check on Rook, she didn't see him at first. Then she spotted him halfway down Columbus. What the hell was he doing crouching behind that planter? He looked like he was spying on something. She hopped the fence of the dog park and cut across the lawn toward him at a jog. That's when she saw White Shirt Blue Jeans climb out of the dumpster at the rear entrance to the museum complex. She kicked it up to a sprint. Ahead of her, Rook stood up behind his planter. The guy made him and took off down the driveway, disappearing into the service tunnel. Nicky Heat called out to him, but Rook was already running into the underground entrance after her perp. She cursed and leaped over the fence at the other end of the dog park, chasing after them. Chapter 2. Nicky Heat's footsteps echoed back at her, off the concrete tunnel as she ran. The passage was wide and high, big enough to truck in exhibits for both museums in the complex, the American Museum of Natural History and the Rose Center for Earth and Space, a.k.a. the Planetarium. The orange cast of sodium vapor lamps gave good visibility, but she couldn't see ahead around the curve of the wall. She also didn't pick up any other footfalls, and coming around the bend, she saw why not. The tunnel came to a dead end at a loading dock, and nobody was there. She bounded up the steps to the landing, from which a pair of doors fed off, one to the Natural History Museum on the right, the other to the Planetarium on her left. She made a zen choice and hit the push bar to the Natural History door. It was locked. To hell with instinct. She went for the process of elimination. The door to the Planetarium service bay popped open. She drew her gun and went in. Heat entered in the weaver stance, keeping her back to a line of crates. Her academy trainer had drilled her to use the more square and sturdy isosceles, but in tight quarters with lots of pivoting, she made her own call and assumed the pose that let her flow and present less target area. She cleared the room quickly, startled only once by an Apollo spacesuit dangling from an old display. In the far corner she found an internal staircase. As she approached, somebody upstairs threw a door open against a wall. Before it slammed shut, Heat was climbing the steps 2 at a time. She emerged into a sea of visitors roaming the lower level of the planetarium. A camp counselor passed by leading a herd of kids in matching T-shirts. The detective holstered up before young eyes could freak out at her gun. Heat waded through them, squinting in the blinding whiteness of the hall of the universe, speed scanning for Rook or Kimberly Starr's attacker. Over by a rhino-sized meteorite, she spotted a security guard on his two-way, pointing at something. Rook, vaulting a banister and clambering up a ramp that curved around the hall and spiraled to the floor above. Halfway up the incline, her suspect's head popped over the railing to back-check on Rook. Then he raced on with the reporter in pursuit. The sign said they were on the Cosmic Pathway, a 360-degree spiral walkway marking the timeline of the evolution of the universe in the length of a football field. Nikki Heat covered 13 billion years at a personal best. At the top of the incline, quads protesting, she stopped to make another scan. No sign of either of them. Then she heard the screams of the crowd. Heat rested a hand on her holster and orbited under the giant central sphere to see the guest lineup for the space show. The alarmed crowd was parting, backing away from Rook, who was on the ground, taking a rib kick from her man. The attacker drew back for another kick, and during the most vulnerable part of his balance shift, Heat came up behind him and used her leg to sweep his out from under him. All 6 feet of him dropped hard onto the marble. She cuffed him rodeo quick, and the crowd broke into applause. Rook sat himself up. "I'm fine, thanks for asking. Nice work slowing him down like that. Is that how you rolled in Chechnya?" "The guy jumped me after I tripped." He pointed under his foot to a bag from the museum store. "On that." Rook opened it up and pulled out an art glass paperweight of a planet. "Check it out. I tripped on Uranus." When Heat and Rook entered the interrogation room, the prisoner snapped upright at the table, the way 4th graders do when the principal walks in. Rook took the side chair. Nikki Heat tossed a file on the table but stayed on her feet. "Stand up," she said, and Barry Gable did. The detective walked a circle around him, enjoying his nervousness. She bent low to examine his blue jeans for any rips that could match the fabric shard the killer had left on the railing. "What did you do here?" Gable arched himself to look at the scuff she was pointing to in the back of his leg. "I don't know, maybe I scraped them on the dumpster. These are brand new," he added, as if that might put him in a more favorable light. "We're going to want your pants." The guy started to unhitch them right there, and she said, "Not now. After. Sit down." He complied, and she eased into the seat opposite, all casual, all in charge. "You want to tell us why you attacked Kimberly Starr?" "Ask her," he said, trying to sound tough but shooting nervous looks at himself in the mirror, a giveaway to her. He had never sat in interrogation before. "I'm asking you, Barry," said Heat. "It's personal." "It is to me. Battery like that against a woman? I can get very personal about that. You want to see how personal?" Rook chimed in. "Plus you assaulted me." "Hey, you were chasing me. How did I know what you were going to pull? I can tell a mile away you're not a cop." He'd kind of like that. She arched an eyebrow at Rook, and he sat back to stew. She turned back to Gable. "Not your first assault, I see, is it, Barry?" She made a show of opening the file. There weren't many pages in it, but her theater made him more uneasy, so she made the most of it. 2006, scrape with a bouncer in Soho. 2008, you pushed a guy who caught you keying the side of his Mercedes. Those were all misdemeanors. Those were all assaults. I lose it sometimes. He forced a John Candy chuckle. Guess I should stay out of the bars. And maybe spend more time at the gym, said Rook. Heat gave him a cool-it glance. Barry had turned to the mirror again and adjusted his shirt around his gut. Heat closed the file and said, "Can you tell us your whereabouts this afternoon, say around 1 to 2 p.m.? I want my lawyer." "Sure. Would you like to wait for him here or down in the zoo lockup?" It was an empty threat that only worked on newbies, and Gable's eyes widened. Underneath the hard-ass face she fixed on him, Heat was loving how easily he caved. Gotta love the zoo lockup. Works every time. "I was at the Beacon, you know. The Beacon Hotel on Broadway." "You do know we will check your alibi. Is there anyone who saw you and can vouch for you?" "I was alone in my room. Maybe somebody at the front desk in the morning." "That hedge fund you operate pays for a mighty nice address in East 52nd. Why book a hotel?" "Come on, are you going to make me say this?" He stared at his own pleading eyes in the mirror, then nodded to himself. "I go there a couple of times a week to meet somebody, you know." "For sex?" asked Rook. "Geez, yeah, sex is part of it. It goes deeper than that." "And what happened today?" asked Heat. "She didn't show." "Bad for you, Barry. She could be your alibi. Does she have a name?" "Yeah, Kimberly Starr." When Heat and Rook left interrogation, Detective Ochoa was waiting in the observation booth, staring through the magic mirror at Gable. "Can't believe you wrapped this interview and didn't ask the most important question." When he had their attention, he continued, "How did that swamp doofus get a babe like Kimberly Starr into the sack?" "You are so superficial," said Heat. "It's not about looks, it's about money." "Weird Al," said Rayleigh when the three of them entered the squad room. "It's Raining Men. My guess is Al Yankovic." "Nope," said Rook. "The song was written by—" I could tell you, but where's the sport in that? Keep trying, but no fair Googling." Nikki Heat sat at her desk and swiveled to face the bullpen. "Can I break up tonight's episode of Jeopardy for a little police work? Ochoa, what do we know about Kimberly Starr's alibi?" "We know it doesn't check out. Well, I know, and now you do, too. She was at Dino Bites today, but left shortly after she got there. Her kid ate his tar pit soup with the nanny, not his mom." "What time did she leave?" asked Heat. Ochoa flipped through his notes. "Manager says around 1:15. Rook said, "I told you I got a vibe off Kimberly Starr, didn't I?" "You like Kimberly Starr as a suspect?" asked Rayleigh. "Here's how it spins for me." Rook sat on Heat's desk. She noticed him wince from the rib kicks he'd taken and wished he would get himself checked out. "Our adoring trophy wife and mother has been getting sweet lovin' on the side. Her punch-pal Barry, no-looker he, claims she dropped him like a sack of hammers when his hedge fund cratered and his money supply pinched off. Hence today's assault. Who knows, maybe our dead gazillionaire kept the little missus on a short money leash. Or maybe Matthew Starr found out about her affair and she killed him." Rayleigh nodded. "Does look bad that she was cheating on him." "I have a novel idea," said Heat. "Why don't we do this thing called an investigation? Gather evidence, assemble some facts. Somehow that might sound better in court than, 'Here's how it spins for me.'" Rook took out his moleskin notebook. "Excellent. This is all going to be swell in my article." He clicked a pen theatrically to needle her. "So, what do we investigate first?" "Rayleigh," said Heat, "check out the Beacon. See if Gable's been a regular there. Show them a picture of Mrs. Starr while you're at it. Ochoa, how soon can you pull together a background check on our trophy widow?" "How's first thing tomorrow?" "Okay, but I was kind of hoping for first thing tomorrow." Rook raised his hand. "Question, why not just pick her up? I would love to see what happens when you set her down in your Hall of Mirrors. Much as I live my day to provide you with top entertainment, I'm going to hold off until I learn a little more. Besides, she's not going anywhere." The next morning, amid flickering lights, City Hall put out the word for New Yorkers to curtail air conditioning use and strenuous activity. For Nikki Heat, that meant her close-quarter combat training with Don, the ex-heel, would be done with the gym windows open. His brand of training combined Brazilian jiu-jitsu, boxing, and judo. Their sparring began at 5:30 with a round of grapples and rolls in 82 degrees and humidity to match. After the second water break, Don asked her if she wanted to call it. He'd answered with a takedown and a textbook blood choke and release. She seemed to thrive on the adverse weather. Fed on it, really. Rather than wearing her down, the gasping intensity of morning combat pushed out the noise of her life and left her in her quiet inner place. It was the same way when she and Don had sex from time to time. She decided if she had nothing going, maybe next week she'd suggest another after-hours session to her trainer with benefits. Anything to get her heart rate up. Lauren Perry led Nikki Heat and her reporter tag-along through the autopsy room to the body of Matthew Starr. "As always, Nick," said the medical examiner, "we don't have the tox work yet, but barring lab surprises, I'm writing up cause of death as blunt force trauma due to a fall from an unreasonable height." "In what box are you going to check, suicide or homicide?" "That's why I called you down. I found something that indicates homicide." The ME circled to the other side of the corpse and lifted the sheet. "We've got a series of fist-sized contusions on the torso. These tell me he got worked over sometime day of. Look closely at this one here." Heat and Rook leaned in at the same time, and she drew away to avoid a repeat of the balcony perfume ad. He stepped back and gestured to be my guest. "Very distinct bruising," said the detective. "I can make out knuckles and what's this hexagonal shape from, a ring?" She stepped out to let Rook in and said, "Lauren, I'd like to get a photo of that one." Her friend was already holding out a print to her. "I'll put it up on the server so you can copy it. And what did you do, get in a bar fight?" She was looking at Rook. "Me? Oh, just a little line of duty action yesterday. Cool, huh? Way you're standing, my guess is intercostal injury right here." She touched his ribs without pressing. "Does it hurt when you laugh?" Heat said, "Say line of duty action again. That's funny." Detective Heat taped autopsy blow-ups on the bullpen whiteboard to prep for her unit case meeting. She drew a line with a dry erase marker and wrote the names of the forensics print matches off the balcony doors at the Guilford. Matthew Starr, Kimberly Starr, Maddie Starr, and Agda the nanny. Rayleigh arrived early with a bag of donut holes and confirmed Barry Gable's regular hotel bookings at the Beacon. Reception and service staff had identified Kimberly Starr as his steady guest. "Oh, and the lab work came in on Barry the Beacon Beefcake's blue jeans," he added. "No match to those balcony fibers." "No surprise," Heat said, "but it was fun to see how fast he was willing to drop his pants." "Fun for you," said Rook. She smiled. "Yeah, definitely one of the perks of the job, watching sweaty clods shimmy out of their knockoff jeans." Ochoa rushed in, speaking as he crossed to them. "I'm late. It was worth it. Shut up." He pulled some printouts from his messenger bag. "I just finished the background check on Kimberly Starr, or shall I say, Laldomina Battistini of Queens, New York." The unit drew close as he read bits from the file. "Our preppy Stepford mom was born and raised in Astoria above a mani-pedi salon on Steinway, about as far from the Connecticut girls' schools and riding academies as you can get. Let's see, high school dropout, and she's got a rap sheet." He handed it to Heat. "No felonies," she said. "Juvie bus for shoplifting and later for pot, 1 DUI. Oh, and here we go, busted twice at 19 for lewd acts with customers. Young Laldomina was a lap dancer at numerous clubs near the airport, performing under the name Samantha." "I always said Sex in the City fostered poor role modeling," said Rook. Ochoa took the sheet back from Heat and said, "I talked to a pal in Vice. Kimberly, Samantha, whatever, hooked up with some guy, a regular at the club, and she married him. She was 20. He was 68 and loaded. Her sugar daddy was from Greenwich old money and wanted to take her to the yacht club, so he—" "Let me guess," said Rook. "He got her a Henry Higgins," drawing blank stares from Roach. "I speak musical theater," Heat said. Right up there with animated films, Broadway was Nikki's great escape from her work on the other streets of New York, when she could swing a ticket. "He means her new husband got his exotic dancer a charm tutor for a presentability makeover, a class on class." Rook added, "And a Kimberly Starr is born. The husband died when she was 21. I know what you're thinking, so I double-checked. Natural causes, heart attack. The man left her $1 million. And a taste for more. Nice work, detective." Ochoa popped a victory donut hole, and Heat continued, "You and Rayleigh keep a tail on her. Loose one. I'm not ready to show my hand until I see what else shakes free on other fronts." Heat had learned years ago that most detective work is grunt work done pounding the phones, combing files, and searching the department's database. The calls she had made the afternoon before to Starr's attorney and detectives working complaints against persons had paid off that morning with a file of people who'd made threats on the real estate developer's life. She grabbed her shoulder bag and signed out, figuring it was about time to show her celeb magazine writer what fieldwork was all about. But she couldn't find him. She had almost left Rook behind when she came upon him standing in the precinct lobby, very occupied. A drop-dead, stunning woman was smoothing the collar of his shirt. The stunner barked out a laugh, shrieked, "Oh, Jamie," then pulled her designer sunglasses off her head to shake her raven, shoulder-length hair. Heat watched her lean in close to whisper, pressing her D-cups right against him. He didn't step back, either. What was Rook doing, making a perfume ad with every damn woman in the city? Then she stopped herself. Why do I care, she thought. It bothered her that it even bothered her. So she blew it off and walked out, mad at herself for her one look back at them. "So, what's the point of this exercise?" Rook asked on the drive uptown. "It's something we professionals in the world of detection call detecting." He'd picked the file out of her driver's door pocket and passed it to him. "Somebody wanted Matthew Starr dead. A few you'll see in there made actual threats. Others just found him inconvenient. So this is about eliminating them? This is about asking questions and seeing where the answers lead. Sometimes you flush out a suspect. Sometimes you're getting information you didn't have that takes you somewhere else. Was that another member of the Jameson Rook fan club back there?" Rook chuckled. "Bree? Oh, hell no." They rode another block in silence. Because she seemed like a big fan. Bree Flax is a big fan, all right, of Bree Flax. She's a freelancer for the local glossy mags, always on the prowl for the true crime piece she can upsell into an instant book. You know, ripped from the headlines. That operetta back there was about getting me to cough up some inside stuff on Matthew Starr. She seemed focused. Rook smiled. "By the way, that's Flax, just in case you want to run a check." "And what's that supposed to mean?" Rook didn't answer. He just gave her a smile that made her blush. She turned away and pretended to watch cross-traffic out her side window, worried about what he saw in her face. Up on the top floor of the Marlowe building, there was no heat wave. In the enveloping coolness of his corner office, Omar Lamb listened to the recording of his threatening phone call to Matthew Starr. He was placid. His palms rested flat and relaxed on his leather blotter, as the tiny speaker on the digital recorder vibrated with an enraged version of him spouting expletives and graphic descriptions of what he would do to Starr, including where on his body he would insert an assortment of weapons, tools, and firearms. When it was over, he turned it off and said nothing. Nicky Heat studied the real estate developer, his gym rat body, sunken cheeks, and "you're dead to me" eyes. A surplus of refrigerated air whispered from unseen vents to fill the silence. She was chilly for the first time in 4 days. It was a lot like the morgue. "He actually recorded me saying that." Mr. Starr's attorney provided it when he put the complaint on the record. "Come on, detective. People say they're going to kill people all the time. And sometimes they do it." Rook observed from a perch in the windowsill, where he divided his attention between Omar Lamb and the lone blader braving the heat in the Trump skating rink in Central Park 35 stories below. So far, he thought, thank God he seemed content to follow her instructions not to butt in. "Matthew Starr was a titan of this industry who will be missed. I respected him and deeply regret that phone call I made. His death was a loss to us all." He'd had known on sight that this guy was going to take some work. He didn't even look at her shield when she walked in. Didn't ask for his lawyer. Said he had nothing to hide, and if he did, she sensed he was too smart to say anything stupid. This was not a man to fall for the old zoo lockup routine. So she danced with him, looking for her opening. "Why all the bile?" she asked. "What got you so lathered up about a business rival?" "My rival?" Matthew Starr didn't have the skill set to qualify as my rival. Matthew Starr needed a stepladder just to kiss my ass. There it was. She'd found an open sore on Omar Lamb's tough hide. His ego. She picked at it. She laughed at him. "Bull." "Bull? Did you just say bull to me?" Lamb jerked to his feet and hero strode from behind the fortress of his desk to face her. This was definitely not going to be a perfume ad. She didn't flinch. Starr had title to more property than anyone in the city. A lot more than you, right? Garbage addresses, environmental restrictions, limited air rights. What does more mean when it's more crap? Sounds like rival talk to me. Must have felt bad to unzip and flop 'em on the table and come up short. Hey, you want to measure something? This was good. She loved it when she rattled the tough boys into talking. Measure all the properties Matthew Starr stole from under my nose. With a manicured finger, he poked her shoulder to punctuate each item on his list. He fudged permits, he bribed inspectors, he underbid, he oversold, he underdelivered. Gee, said Heat, it's almost enough to make you want to kill him. Now the developer laughed. Nice try. Listen, yeah, I made threats to the guy in the past. Operative word? Past. Years ago. Look at his numbers now. Even without the recession, Starr was a spent force. I didn't need to kill him. He was a dead man walking. So says his rival. Don't believe me? Go to any of his job sites. And see what? Hey, you expect me to do all your work? At the door as they were leaving, Lamb said, One thing. I read in the Post he fell 6 stories. That's right, 6, said Rook. The first thing he said, and it was a shot at her. Did he suffer? No, said Heat. He died instantly. Lamb grinned, showing a row of laminates. Well, maybe in hell then. Their gold-crowned Victoria rolled south on the West Side Highway, the AC blasting and humidity condensing into wisps of fog around the dashboard vents. So, what's your take? Asked Rook. Think Omar offed him? Could have. I've got him on my list, but that's not what that was about. Glad to hear it, Detective. No rush. There's only, 3 million more people to meet and greet in New York. Not that you aren't a charming interviewer. God, you're impatient. Did you tell Bono you were tired of relief stations in Ethiopia? Did you push the Chechen warlords to pick up the pace? Come on, Ivan, let's see a little warlord action. I just like to cut through is all. She was glad for this sea change. It got her off his personal radar, so she ran with it. You want to actually learn something on this ride-along project of yours? Try listening. This is police work. Killers don't walk around with bloody knives on them, and the home invasion crews don't dress like the Hamburglar. You talk to people, you listen, you see if they're hiding something. Or sometimes, if you pay attention, you get insight, information you didn't have before. Like what? Like this. As they pulled up, the Starr construction site on 11th Avenue in the Lower West Side was dead. Almost noon and no sign of work, no sign of workers. It was a ghost site. She parked off the street on the dirt strip between the curb and the plywood construction fence. When they got out, Nicky said, You hear what I hear? Nothing. Exactly. Yo, miss, this is a closed site. You gotta go. A guy in a hard hat and no shirt kicked up dust on his way to meet them as they squeezed in the chain-link gate. With that swagger and that gut, Heat could picture whooping New Jersey housewives sticking dollar bills in his Speedo. You too, buddy, he said to Rook. Adios. Heat flashed tin and shirtless mouthed the F-bomb. Bueno, said Rook. Nicky Heat squared herself to the guy. I want to talk to your foreman. I don't think that's possible. She cupped a hand to her ear. Did you hear me ask? No, I definitely don't think it was a question. Oh, my God, Jamie! The voice came from across the yard. A skinny man in sunglasses and blue satin warm-up stood in the open door of the site trailer. Hey, called Rook. Fat Tommy. The man waved them over. Come on, hurry up. I'm not air-conditioned in the tri-state area, you know. Inside the double-wide, Heat sat with Rook and his pal, but she didn't take the chair she was offered. Although there were no current warrants on him, Tommaso, Fat Tommy, Nicolosi ran enforcement for one of the New York families, and caution dictated she not get wedged in between the table and the masonite wall. She took the outside seat and angled it so her back wasn't to the door. Through his smile, the look she got from Fat Tommy said he knew exactly what she was doing. What happened to you, Fat Tommy? You're not fat. The wife's got me doing neutral minder. God, has it been that long since I saw you? He took off his tinted glasses and turned his pouchy eyes to Heat. Jamie was doing this article a couple of years ago on The Life on Staten Island. We got to know each other. He seemed okay for a reporter, and what do you know, he ends up doing me a little favor. Heat smiled thinly and he laughed. Don't worry, detective, it was legal. I just killed a couple guys is all. Kidder, have you noticed he's a kidder? Oh, Jamie, he has me going all the time, she said. Okay, said Fat Tommy. I can see this ain't no social call, so go ahead. The two of us can catch up later. This is Matthew Starr's project, right? It wasn't till yesterday afternoon. The wise guy had one of those faces that was perennially balanced between menace and amusement. He could have read his answer as a joke or a fact. Mind if I ask what your role is here? He sat back, relaxed, a man in his element. Labor consultation. I notice there's no labor taking place. Damn straight, we shut it down a week ago. Starr stiffed us, non-payment on our agreement. What sort of agreement was that, Mr. Nicolosi? She knew full well what it was. They called it lots of things, mostly the unofficial construction tax. The going rate was 2%, and it didn't go to the government. He turned to Rook. I like your girlfriend. Say that again and I'll break your knees, she said. He looked at her and decided she could, then smiled. Not, huh? Rook affirmed that with a mild shake of his head. Huh, said Fat Tommy. Fooled me. Anyway, I owe Jamie a salad, so I'll answer your question. What sort of agreement? Let's call it the expediting fee. Yeah, that works. Why did Starr stop paying Tommy? Rook was asking questions, but she found herself glad for his participation, tag-teaming from angles she couldn't take. Call it good cop, no cop. Hey, man, the guy was strapped. He said he was, and we checked. Underwater so deep he was sprouting gills. Fat Tommy laughed at his joke and added, We don't care. Do guys ever get killed for that? Asked Rook. For that? Come on. We just shut it down and let nature take its course. He shrugged. Okay, sometimes guys get dead for that, but not this time. At least not at this early stage. He crossed his arms and grinned. For real, not his girlfriend, huh? Over carnitas burritos at Chipotle, he'd asked Rook if he still felt like they were wheel spinning. Before he answered, Rook slurped the ice cubes with his straw, vacuuming for more Diet Coke. Well, he said finally, I don't think we've met Matthew Starr's killer today, if that's what you mean. Fat Tommy drifted in and out of her mind as a possible, but she kept it to herself. He read her, though, adding, And if Fat Tommy tells me he didn't do Matthew Starr, that's all I need. You, sir, are an investigative force unto yourself. I know the guy. Remember what I said before? Ask questions and see where the answers lead. For me, they've led to a picture of Matthew Starr that doesn't fit the image. What did he put out there? She drew a frame in the air with both hands. Successful, respectable, and most of all well-funded. Okay, now ask yourself this. All that money and he couldn't pay his mob tax? The spiff that kept concrete pouring and iron rising? She balled up her wrapper and stood. Let's go. Where to? To talk to Starr's money guy. Look at it this way, it's another chance for you to see me at my charming best. Heat's ears popped on the express elevator to the penthouse floor of Starr Point, Matthew Starr's headquarters on West 57th near Carnegie Hall. When they stepped into the opulent lobby, she whispered to Rook, Do you notice this office is one floor higher than Omar Lamb's? I think it's safe to say that even up to the end, Matthew Starr was acutely aware of heights. They announced themselves to the receptionist. As they waited, Nicky Heat perused a gallery of framed photos of Matthew Starr with presidents, royals, and celebrities. On their far wall, a flat screen soundlessly looped Starr Development's corporate marketing video. In a glass trophy case, beneath heroic scale models of Starr office buildings and gleaming replicas of the corporate G4 and Sikorsky 76, stretched a long row of Waterford crystal jars filled with dirt. Above each, a photograph of Matthew Starr breaking ground from the site that had filled the jar. The carved mahogany door opened, and a man in shirt sleeves and a tie stepped out and extended his hand. Detective Heat, Noah Paxton, I was Matthew's financial advisor. As they shook hands, he gave her a sad smile. We're all still in shock. I'm very sorry for your loss, she said. This is Jameson Rook. The writer? Yes, he said. Okay, said Paxton, accepting Rook's presence as if recognizing there was a walrus on the front lawn, but not understanding why. "Shall we go to my office?" He opened the mahogany door for them, and they entered Matthew Starr's world headquarters. Heat and Rook both stopped. The entire floor was empty. Glass cubicles to the left and right were vacant of people and desks. Phone and Ethernet cables lay disconnected on floors. Plants sat dead and dying. The near wall showed the ghost of a bulletin board. The detective tried to reconcile the posh lobby she had just left with this vacant space on the other side of the threshold. "Excuse me," she said to Paxton. "Matthew Starr just died yesterday. Have you already begun to close the business?" "Oh, this? No, not at all. We cleared this out a year ago." As the door closed behind them, the floor was so deserted, the snap of the metal tongue latch actually echoed.